Joining us now, the author of the Washington Post's new early morning newsletter, Power Up, Jackie Alemany. Jackie, you're looking at President Trump's last-minute pitch to women voters and whether it's too little, too late. What did you find?
Well, last night there was the unusual sight of seeing President Trump in Indiana, flanked by his daughter Ivanka Trump, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the White House press secretary, and then the White House counselor Kellyanne Conway, who also happened to be the three most requested surrogates from the White House this campaign season. And I think what we saw was the president's attempt at speaking to female voters at the really very last minute of this midterm cycle. You saw the president admit himself with Sinclair Broadcasting in an interview prior to the rally that he, after 2 years of using very inflammatory and divisive rhetoric, that he probably could have taken a softer tone. And I think that's because this president is finally realizing that he is at risk at being a one-term president. I mean, a 27-point gender gap of women favoring Democrats over Republicans isn't something that you can just ignore, but it is quite possible that this is too little too late.
So, Susan, how with these swing voters, and you look at the suburban voters, how do you think Sarah Huckabee Sanders and Ivanka Trump, and trying to do it with a straight face, Kellyanne Conway, do you think they're going to sway a lot of female voters?
I don't think it's too little too late. I think it's too little and too stupid. I mean, women voters are not going to respond just because they see some females up there who have been basically telling women that they don't matter. They don't care about the policy.
What did Kellyanne say about Dr. Ford? That she shouldn't be treated like what?
Oh, Fabergé egg. You should ask me, because I remember that.
She shouldn't be treated like a Fabergé egg, right? Kellyanne Conway. So how does that, if you're attacking a woman who has put herself out like that, how does that actually appeal to swing voters?
Swing voters should not be, the Trump folks at this point should just not trying to appeal to them at all, because frankly, none of the Trump administration is appealing to swing voters, women or men.
So, Jackie, the other part of the conversation is that appealing to the women in that room at that rally in the state of Indiana, that's not the group of white women they need to appeal to. President Trump won them by some 30 points. The women they need to be appealing to are the women in districts like Virginia 7 and Virginia 10 and Ohio 1, places like that.
Right, that's completely true. And we've seen Sarah Huckabee Sanders and Kellyanne making the rounds to those more moderate suburban House races and praising female candidates, especially for being strong women and being mothers. I think Sarah Huckabee Sanders said of Claudia Tenney, the congresswoman in upstate New York, that mothers are the best people to run the government. But a White House source, a source close to the White House, made a really smart point to me, which is that this White House has a very big female validation problem, and when the president can't close with minorities and with women with the best economy in a generation, which is the issue that is the most important to mothers around the country, then this White House has a pretty big problem.
So, Jackie, what else are you writing about in the newsletter this morning?
We have so much going on in the newsletter this morning. We touched base actually with all of our political reporters, Dave Weigel, Dan Balls, Ovetta Wiggins, about what they're watching. So you should definitely look at that. And then we also talked with a bunch of GOP operatives who are pretty worried about today and didn't really hold back, at least on background, and basically said that the House race is totally cooked and that the sky is falling for a bunch of Republicans. But the two races that Republicans are going to be watching really closely, or as you guys have already talked about, Kentucky, Andy Barr's race with Amy McGrath. This is a place that Trump won handily, and it looks like Amy has a very close possibility of winning. So as this operative phrased it to me, this is like the first round of the NCAA tournament. If Andy loses come 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, then then Republicans are out of the first round. And then we're also looking very closely at Virginia, where there are a lot of competitive races races in traditionally Republican strongholds. Steve Bannon actually was campaigning for Republican Congressman Dave Brat this weekend, who said if Brat loses this race, that's it for the president. But meanwhile, at that same time, I talked with a canvasser on the ground in that same area who was literally across the street at Abigail Spanberger's regional office, who said that there were 250 people volunteering for her that day to knock on doors. Meanwhile, at this event, there were all of 40 people.
Wow.
Jackie, thank you very much. Great to have you on. Good luck today.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me, guys.
Pointing out again,
That's
by the way,
the Power Up newsletter.
The Power Up newsletter.
Yeah.
That Dave Brat and his campaign do not want Steve Bannon
I know,
campaigning
I was
for him.
thinking,
He
is
keeps
that
coming
helpful?
into the district, holding these events with 14 people and showing his pro-Trump movie. The Brat campaign does not want Steve Bannon campaigning.
Maybe not so helpful this time around.
and Donald Trump, it is interesting, Willie. It seems that Donald Trump is realizing too little too late that maybe his slash and burn techniques are not only hurting in 2018, but aren't really setting him up well for 2020.
Yeah, well, look where he's campaigning. He's campaigning in Senate races. The action is in the House. If they lose the House, you mentioned Elijah Cummings' name. Elijah Cummings all of a sudden takes over for Trey Gowdy at House Oversight if they win the House, if Democrats win the House. All of a sudden, Adam Schiff takes over Intel, and you don't have Devin Nunes anymore. The Mueller investigation is out there. All these things that could really impact the future of Donald Trump's presidency would be controlled by Democrats, so you'd think that's where the energy would be. But he's focused on the Senate.
Well, as we continue on this election day, part of the president's closing message, a warning about voter fraud that election officials seem to know nothing about. Morning Joe is coming right back.
All you have to do is go around, take a look at what's happened over the years, and you'll see. There are a lot of people, in my opinion, and based on proof, that try and get in illegally and actually vote illegally. So we just want to let them know that there will be prosecutions at the highest level.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.